really do like Aguas Calientes. Like, it's... first of all, I love sleeping there. Like, oh man, if you're a person who loves white noise, the hotel that we stay in, that river flowing, man, it is just amazing. Did you experience that?
I couldn't hear the river where I was at. No.
Man, where I was sleeping, dude, I could just snuggle up in them sheets out. It was amazing. Hello and welcome to the Peru Travel Podcast. I'm your host, David Kozlowski. Alongside of me is Kevin Groh. Kevin, been chilling on the Gmails. I just started without you even paying attention.
Yeah, I see that. It's nice to be actually in studio for once.
Yeah, studio, which as you can see is an office because we're filming for the first time. Thank you guys for joining us. If you're watching on YouTube, we have dogs around us. We have beautiful pictures, a printer that, you know, for whatever reason just wants to make noises throughout the show, camera gear, you name it. This is my office.
Yeah, I figured since we're doing the video for the first time, I actually had to throw something nice on because they used to say, a face for radio, but now we're actually filming.
Yeah, I look like garbage anyways, but whatever. So today we're going to be talking about 50 facts about Peru. And Kevin, you actually spent a lot of time writing this up, and so did I. So we couldn't believe that we found 50 facts. It was actually quite difficult. You'd think that it would be pretty easy, but it wasn't.
Yeah, it took me, I did a lot of digging just to be able to fill out 50 facts.
Yeah.
I think I got to about 41 or 42 and I was just
struggling.
Yeah, struggling.
But there's some pretty good stuff here. There's definitely some facts that are obviously like most people kind of know, but then there's some facts that are freaking bizarre, and I'm excited. And we've got 50 of them, so we probably should get into it.
Yeah. I'm excited.
So a lot of you may not know, but Machu Picchu is a Astronomy Observatory, so that's pretty neat. Hiram Bingham also brought the site world attention. So Machu Picchu was it's kind of a weird story too, because Hiram Bingham gets a lot of credit for discovering Machu Picchu, but really he didn't discover it. Right? I mean, there was 3 farmers already there ahead of time when he got in there. Isn't that kind of what you found out?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. So when I was doing a little bit of research, everyone gives so much credit to Hiram, but it's pretty interesting that there's actually quite a few other explorers that could be given credit for discovering Machu Picchu. There was one guy in the 1800s from Italy that actually had come across the site and didn't really, think much of it. And then another group of Germans in the 1800s also could have taken credit for discovering it, but just didn't really bring it to attention. But it was actually Hiram who was at the time was looking for what was kind of the lost city of the Incas. Just another city, and he thought he had discovered it when he came to Machu Picchu, but it wasn't the actual city that he was looking for, and just didn't really know what he had found until a few years later. But he was the one that actually got the credit because he took all the artifacts that his team excavated and brought them back to Yale, and just kind of ran with that.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's funny how you something that I will give credit where it is due. I mean, if people did discover it, he's definitely the guy who thought it was special and brought it to its spotlight, which it is a pretty cool place. So, so there were 3 farmers there. We talked about that. Machu Picchu was constructed between 1450 and 1460. Machu Picchu, the meaning means old peak or old mountain. This one I always thought was interesting too, because David talked about this when we were actually on the Inca Trail the first time they were hanging out with them. Spanish conquistadors actually never made it to Machu Picchu. They never conquered it. But there are theories that it's possible that they brought disease to sort of wipe them out. And I don't know, biological warfare, would you say, at its finest, if you will, back in the day, as awful as that sounds.
Yeah, I mean, just to piggyback off that a little bit, I mean, so they know for sure that the Spanish didn't find it, just for a number of reasons. When they went back through various Spanish texts, they never found any mention of the Machu Picchu site in various diaries and various texts that the Spanish had written up. And on top of that, the Spanish had, when they had come and kind of conquered the Incans, they had previously at other Incan sites just defaced them and destroyed them, and there is absolutely no evidence of any defacing that had happened at Machu Picchu.
That's interesting. That's crazy. Little tip outside of the 50 facts. Let's see what else we got here. There's a long list, so we're going to try to simplify some of these, but the Incan Empire was much more widespread than Peru, so that's kind of a common thing, but they actually made it to Argentina, Bolivia, Ecuador, and Chile. By the way, notice how I said Chile instead of Chile. And the reason I did that is because some mean, rude person left a bad review stating that I don't pronounce Spanish words well. Well, I have, I don't speak Spanish. I do the best that I can do. Thank you very much. I appreciate your criticism, but I will try harder.
Yeah, I'm always like, Dave, you gotta pronounce it right.
It's ridiculous. It maybe, I don't know, maybe it's not ridiculous. If you got something nice to say, I'd appreciate that too, right? Hey, these guys are great.
There's a couple times where I'm listening to some podcasts that would going back through it, and I'm just like, oh, he didn't say that right. He's saying Pachamama instead of saying it wrong.
That's all right though. It happens. Look, man, we're not all perfect. The general consensus is right. So the we talked about the Incan Empire was more widespread. At the peak of the Incan Empire, many influential world events hadn't taken place. It's kind of an interesting one because when they were at the top performance, if you will, the biggest that they ever were, Columbus hadn't come to America yet. The Mona Lisa wasn't painted. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, even the famous St. Peter's church in Rome, its cornerstone hadn't even been laid yet.
That's crazy.
It wasn't even built yet.
That's nuts. The official purpose of the site is unknown. There are many theories as to what it was, but the Incas didn't actually have a written language, so there's no way of really knowing what it was for. The famous Inca Trail was a religious path to Machu Picchu, which is something we talked about, I think, in the past about what the Inca Trail is, but it was a religious path, spiritual, if you will, I should say, actually, probably right, because they really weren't religious, it was more they were spiritual.
Right.
The Machu Picchu cannot fall.
Yeah, that's one that's I find pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. There's earthquakes.
Yeah, it's right on two different fault lines, so there's going to be tons of earthquakes there. In fact, Cusco and Lima have both been completely leveled, but Machu Picchu just remained untouched. It's
interesting how that plays out, and I read about how it's the way the stones are placed. But there's no mortar, so there's no constriction, and so there's a phrase. It's like the stones dance when an earthquake happens, or something like that. They jiggle, and you can see them move, and it looks like they're dancing. And really, it's because there's no mortar around it that they're able to move and kind of slide around and still land perfectly in place because they're so heavy.
Right. Yeah. The only thing I really know about that is that the technique was called ashlar. So that's the name of the technique that they use, but basically it just has something to do with how they place the stones, and they just.
How big do you think those stones were?
Each stone?
Yeah, I'm just curious because I'm gonna lay you up. I'm gonna tee me up here for the next one.
So it totally depends on the stone. So each stone that they actually brought into Machu Picchu was at least 50 pounds, but a lot of the rock that they used in Machu Picchu, it was unmovable rock. So all they did was carve the granite rock around, made statues out of the rock that they couldn't move and just left it there.
It's crazy. Yeah, because at the time, the wheel had not been invented, at least for Peru.
For
Inca, excuse me, yeah. So they moved it. There's a lot of different theories, and David had kind of given us one or two, but no one really knows again. So very, very interesting. It's kind of one of those weird phenomenons. Let's see. So the official purpose of the site is unknown. The famous Inca Trail was religious. We went through that. The wheel hadn't been invented. Okay, so there's an extensive network of water channels and conduits within the grounds. That one is actually kind of surprising to me because when you are walking through Machu Picchu, it didn't actually dawn on me until I was reading this and going through it, how there are these little trails. I got my orange or my apple juice up on the camera right here. A little bit of whiskey, huh? There's like these like lines of like concrete, but it's stone, and water is just trickling right through. And that was something we saw by Ryan Community, where there's just water flowing from the mountain through. And I can't comprehend it because I don't know much about like how to build that. But it is fascinating to see. I'm like, where's this water coming from? I remember specifically being Ryan, like, where's this coming from? He's like, there's a spring in the mountain. And I'm like, what? Like, who does that?
I know. Yeah. No, I remember that too when we were in Machu Picchu, just going around the site and just seeing these little channels like running under where we were walking through, under the stone that we're walking on and going to a different part of the city in Machu Picchu. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, it is nuts. There are more than 150 buildings within the complex. Most of Machu Picchu is made up of granite. The rest is held together by limestone. Most of what's seen at Machu Picchu today is original. That's pretty cool. 60% of the construction is located underneath the surface. Do you have any more info on that?
So basically all the info that I was able to find about that was a lot of it has to do with the irrigation. So when we were talking about the channels and the conduits, basically what they did was they crushed a lot of rock and put it underneath the surface. On top of that, I mean, there's caves that are underneath Machu Picchu, which contain some temples. Huh. So I mean, there's places that they had some rooms. So for example, the Temple of the Sun, which is one of the main temples in Machu Picchu. I mean, there's a cave sitting under it with altars there, and they're not really sure what it was used for, but I mean, it's there.
We can't go to it.
As far as I'm aware, visitors can't go to it, but there's scientists that go there and try to figure out what it was for. And
that's so crazy. Yeah. Can you imagine first of all, what jerk said I can't go see that? Like I'm so curious. I'm be sitting over there next time we go back, and I'm just gonna be like knocking on the stone, like I know what's here and I want to go in. It's like Batman's cave, So Machu Picchu was split into two different sections, and that means that there was the southern part was used for farming, while the northern side was used for buildings, sort of like where people would hang out and live, etc. Machu Picchu is only 13 square kilometers, making it a fairly small city. Huayna Picchu mountain housed the high priest and the local virgins.
So yeah, I guess just to piggyback off that. So.
What's the deal with the local virgins?
I'm not sure about the local virgin situation.
We don't have that right now. Like, there's not like a room or a home where local virgins are just chilling. Is there? Like, that's so weird.
No, seriously. So, I mean, the only people that were allowed to live in Machu Picchu was the noble. I mean, it was the high priest. It was the local virgins, and then there was some other people that lived there. But
wait, so if you're a virgin, you were like a noble?
Yeah,
is that like the distinction?
That's what it was.
You've never had sex, so you're at the top of the food chain.
Yeah, right.
That is so messed up. I mean, whatever, dude. It's cool. Like, do your thing, but
so with the agriculture center, the part where we were talking about where it's split up in between the city and the agriculture. There's a lot of people, or I guess, more or less peasants, I guess what you would say, the people that weren't the nobles, that they would actually come every day, hike up Machu Picchu to be able to get fish to farm.
And wasn't there two Chasquis? Am I saying this right? Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. All right. No, trying to do better, folks. So Chasquis, I was reading something too that they would go and they would get fresh fish from the ocean. I'm thinking, how the heck did they do that every day? There's no way, right? Like, I mean, how is that possible? Maybe they must have had like multiple, right? I mean, that were like going. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I'm not sure. I mean, if you think about how widespread the Peruvian Empire was, I mean, you've got
Incan, right?
Yeah, the Incan Empire in Peru. Taking up Argentina and Chile. I mean, it's massive. You got 20 million people that.
Yeah.
You're gonna have resources from the ocean coming into Cusco. I mean, you're gonna be able to get it there.
So I don't know if it's necessarily from the ocean. If that's, maybe it was from like obviously potentially like a lake or a river. But I mean, it is bizarre to me that a Chasqui's job was like to bring fresh fish. Yeah, you turn that phone off, beeping in while we're doing a podcast here, being rude. It's just baffling to me. The Incan Empire, or excuse me, emperors, if you will, or emperor. It's a very crazy task because there's not many fish up in Machu Picchu. When the Spanish invaded the Incas destroyed nearly all the roads and leading to Machu Picchu in order to protect it, including a lot of the Inca Trail.
Mm-hmm. So there was various roads or trails that had led to Machu Picchu. And when the Spanish had invaded, for some reason or another, they obviously wanted to protect Machu Picchu because, as we talked about before, is some sort of religious or spiritual site.
Sure.
So, as you know, when you're getting conquered and all your people are dying, you're going to do what you can to do to protect your most sacred sites. So what they did was they went around and basically ripped up all the stone that they had placed on the roads to Machu Picchu. I mean, for example, if you've actually hiked the Inca Trail, the first day it's all just it's all dirt, and they did that to hide Machu Picchu. It's not until the second day on the Inca Trail that you're actually walking on stone that they had placed.
It's crazy. It's kind of sad to think about, but yeah, this is nuts. Machu Picchu's elevation is lower than Cusco. I think we've talked about that. Obviously getting acclimated in Cusco makes Machu Picchu a lot easier. A grass bridge provided a secret entrance into Machu Picchu for the army, and that is still something that you can walk today. Not necessarily around Machu Picchu, but there's a grass bridge.
So the grass bridge is no longer there, but you can see the trail that had led to the grass bridge.
Isn't there a duplicate or a replica of some sort?
So there used to be, but in 1996 there was a fire at Machu Picchu, and the grass bridge actually burned down that they had.
Isn't there another one in Peru though?
So there's another one. It's near Cusco, but it's not actually in Machu Picchu. So there's a similar type of a bridge that you can actually walk across. And if you think about walking across a grass bridge, that's pretty scary to do. And when I was doing the research, the main reason that they had to use a grass bridge, because if you think about where Machu Picchu is at, it's sitting in the middle of 3 mountains, and there's really not much trees up there. So what I had found out is if you're going to make a bridge, or they even did this for the houses in Machu Picchu. So they had houses that were 2 stories, but you didn't really have wood to if you've been there, you've seen that the houses are all stone, right? Yeah. So you didn't have wood to build a ladder or build stairs to the second level. So what they did was they took the grass and they made basically a rope ladder getting into the second floor. So they did the exact same thing for the bridge for the army, going across this huge, across the Urubamba River.
That is so nuts.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Every time I hear about that, like Dave's like, yeah, there's a grass bridge you can walk across. I'm just like, yeah, I don't know, like if I want to do that.
Yeah, I'm not walking across no grass bridge.
Talented, really talented. I'm a lot bigger than a lot of those Peruvian dudes, So. In the Inca times, there were only 2 ways in and out of Machu Picchu, which is kind of cool because that's still how it is today. 2 ways in and out.
And that actually provided a defense mechanism. Sure. So if you have done the Inca Trail, you're coming in through the Sun Gate, which is way up. It's a fair amount of ways from the actual Machu Picchu city. Yeah. So those 2 ways in, the other way in via the grass bridge, there may have actually been one more bridge that had entered into Machu Picchu, but so the reason that they had these entrances so far away is if someone was invading, it was very easy to destroy the entrance to get to Machu Picchu, because you could see them coming, and it would be very easy to block the entrance. Like, you're not going to get in.
Yeah, they're big on defense.
Exactly.
Yeah, less on attack. That's cool. There are wet and dry seasons, which we've actually have a blog about that, telling you kind of what the best time of year to go, if you will. Actually speaking of that, I'm going to plug that right now. We have a very intuitive blog that talks about the best time of year to go to Machu Picchu. 3 different options. It kind of goes on scale in terms of what it is that you're looking for. It talks about the season, it talks about the cost, and it talks about crowd control. So just check that out. It's on the webpage. And then also, I'm going to plug another thing, is our Peru Tips for Travelers Facebook group. It's a supportive group. A lot of people that have traveled with us before are on the group, and just kind of like a small community kind of helping each other if you have questions about Peru. So if you want to check it out, go check it out. That being said, let's move on. So because of the thick cloud, this one is stupid to me. Like, I believe it, but it's just like, golly. So because of the thick cloud forest, which is all the clouds around Machu Picchu, there is still much of Machu Picchu to be discovered. When I first heard that, no way. Then I found out in 2011, we discovered more terraces around Machu Picchu.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy that there's, you could probably walk off in a part of Machu Picchu, off trail, and who knows, you may find some other terrace or some other house or whatever. It's crazy.
It is crazy, especially today. Now, we're not sending like drones over Machu Picchu's no-fly zone. I know that we're not probably picking out satellites, but in my head, I'm thinking, how do people not see this stuff? Whatever.
It's just the clouds are so dense, especially in the morning, that it makes visibility actually pretty difficult.
What I should say is I get it, right? Like, I understand. I'm surprised that. No, I'm with you. There's so much tech. It's just crazy to me. You'd think that maybe I just think we're too awesome, and we're not. Maybe we're not just that great. Machu Picchu was extremely important to the Incas. It was a spiritual site. Machu Picchu is located this is where it gets difficult. And I know someone's going to just hate mail me right now. I'm going to do my best. Vilcanote.
I'm with you. I'm not totally sure, but I believe it's
Vilcanote mountain range. Machu Picchu, so that's where it's located. Machu Picchu is located on two fault lines, which is what we talked about earlier. And Machu Picchu actually flooded in 2010.
Yeah, so in 2010 there was super, super heavy rains, and actually about 2,000 tourists and 2,000 citizens or people that live in Aguas Calientes, they got trapped because all the railroads basically got destroyed, and so they had to send helicopters in to. So
was it Aguas Calientes or Machu Picchu itself?
So So it was. Machu Picchu is Aguas Calientes is at the base of Machu Picchu. So. Right. It wasn't Machu Picchu just itself. Aguas Calientes was involved as well because you're down by the river where it's going to flood. But a lot of people had to be rescued by helicopter because 4,000 people.
That's crazy.
Are there.
Machu Picchu is not the only archaeological site in Peru, and Peru is not like a massive country. There is so much stuff to do. We haven't even tapped Peru. Like, we have not. There's so many things. When I say we haven't tapped, we haven't done a lot of what Peru has to offer. There's a rainforest. There's an oasis. There's Titicaca.
The Nazca Lines.
Nazca Lines. Yeah. There's so much to do in Peru. It's absolutely insane. So yes, there are a lot of sites. And excuse me, like that. I did a little cough.
And even if you think about, there's a lot of archaeological sites that people aren't even seeing. We have Ryan Community, and you hike up this, to the Ryan Community, and there's this Incan ruin up there that no one's seen.
That is crazy, actually, how when you think about it, Ryan Community, there was no one there.
Right.
No one showed up there, and it's a site that we were so blessed to be able to see, but at the same time, no one. We were
the only 3 people there. It was unreal.
That's why we were able to film it. There are only 2 ways to get to Machu Picchu today. We talked about that. There are 2 hikes in addition to viewing Machu Picchu. Those are Huayna Picchu and Machu Picchu Mountain. On average, 1.3 million people visit Machu Picchu yearly. Only 2,500 tourists are allowed into Machu Picchu a day. Now, does this change, or is that the new rule?
So the 2,500 people per day is the new rule as of July 1st, 2017.
Got it. So the 1.8 million was potentially an old stat that was obviously pulled in.
Yep. So that was old. With that being said, that also takes into account. So the 2,500 people per day is people that are just coming to show up for Machu Picchu.
Tourists.
When there's going to be additional people there because people coming in through Inca Trail, things like that.
And something that we got kind of hit up to about is hey, I went to Machu Picchu without a guide. Sure. Honestly, that stuff is so hard to regulate. right? I mean, there might be more people than 2,500 tourists that find a way to get into Machu Picchu. You know, it's
right. So the official regulation says that you got to have an official tour guide.
Right.
But like you were saying, there's so many people there. And when we were even there this year in April, I mean, we had a guide, but no one was really checking that you had a guide.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And on top of that, you know,
did I not hear or see though that they're possibly making it to where you have to follow a path?
Yeah. So that's also part of the new regulation of July 2017.
So it's kind of forcing you.
There's supposed to be a path that you follow, so people go along in the same direction. Basically, this is just a lot of techniques that they're trying to use to conserve Machu Picchu because they're so worried about it being destroyed with all the traffic.
Which is going to lead us to the next one coming up here soon. Actually, not quite yet, but you can get a stamp of Machu Picchu at the entrance of Machu Picchu for your passport. We've never done that.
We never did that. Yeah, both times that we were there, we left and we were like, we didn't get the stamp.
Yeah.
Like, gosh.
You can follow Hiram Bingham's original path from 1911 leading to his discovery of Machu Picchu. Is that from Aguas Calientes, do you know? Or is
So if you're not taking the bus
I would not do that.
I know, yeah, it's a hell of a hike. So
there's some things I just don't want to do when I go back, and that's one of them.
I'd rather take the bus. So you can either take a bus from Aguas Calientes up to the Machu Picchu entrance. You know, it's like $20, which is the path that I'm going to take if I'm going to Machu Picchu. But you know, if you're cheap and you want to do the hike,
you want to experience it.
You're talking. This is a very, very, very steep hike, and you're looking at a minimum of 90 minutes to get all the way up. Here's the deal:
if you're going to do that hike and you just decided to opt out of the Inca Trail or Sacante Trail or something like that, go home. Because I would rather do the Inca Trail than that damn hike. That's how steep it looks. Maybe I'm wrong. I've never done it, so I mean, we could be wrong, but it looks like hell. It's
a lot of stairs, but it is the original path that Hiram did take to discover Machu Picchu.
Yeah, for all you people who have very, what do you say? Like, you gotta go to the bathroom a lot. You know, those people like go into a restaurant. You're like, I gotta see the bathroom. Well, guess what? There are no bathrooms beyond the entrance of Machu Picchu. So just know that inside of Machu Picchu, there are no bathrooms inside of Machu Picchu. Just continuing in a sentence. There are 2 time slots to enter Machu Picchu, morning and afternoon, which those times are 8 a.m. or 6 a.m.
Yep.
And 11 a.m. if I'm not mistaken, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. So like, even though it says afternoon, it's 11 a.m. But if you want to be there with there's the least amount of people, morning is your best shot. The Temple of the Sun is one of the 3 most important temples that visitors are able to see. Machu Picchu is one of the 7 new wonders of the world. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. There is a no-fly zone over Machu Picchu, which we talked about, and you cannot bring your drones.
So what's crazy about that is actually in 2006, there was a company that actually got permission to do helicopter tours over Machu Picchu, but a lot of environmentalists protested it, and a week later, the Peruvian government took their certificate or their permission, reversed it.
That's crazy. Yeah, I feel at times when I go places that involve like natural beauty, when I'm hiking, we did Wamanu in Hawaii, I have a feeling that when I see helicopters, it kind of ruins it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's a place that, I mean, once again, if you've been there, it's a place that Peru has really actually done really well to preserve the original intent of Machu Picchu. I mean, if you're walking around the site, and this is why we recommend having a tour guide, because there are no signs when you're going around explaining what things are. They've kept it to the original intent of Machu Picchu. So, I mean, you know, I agree with you. If you're having helicopters flying overhead, and it really takes away the beauty of Machu Picchu, and
maybe someday we can come up with an app or a tour guide photo type thing that will explain where you are as you're walking. If you want that and you're listening to this, you just hit us up. We'll find some developers. You got to email us though. Tell us that you want it. That's how bad you should want it. Really though, guys, a guide is super cheap and you're actually helping the local economy. So I would highly recommend it in general. But this one's funny. I love this one actually, because I have German friends and I just wish. All right, so you cannot visit wearing your country's folkloric attire. That's awesome. So if you're German, coming from Germany, you cannot wear a lederhosen. Sorry, you got to leave that crap at home, man. I think I butchered the German accent. If you're Scottish, can't wear a kilt. If you're Irish, can't wear a kilt.
If you're Japanese, can't wear a kimono.
Yeah, if you're American, you can't wear overalls.
Yeah, American flag overalls.
Something. Yeah, if you're American, you can't wear a shotgun. Can't walk up in there with a shotgun, boy. I tell you what.
Charlie wouldn't have been able to wear his swim trunks, American flag swim trunks.
That's right. Crazy. So Machu Picchu is on the World Monuments Watch list of the 100 most endangered sites. So this one's actually pretty cool because Finland kind of jumped in on this one, right? Like they agreed to trade 20. Dude, you're the economics guy, so why don't you take this?
So basically, let's see here. So they're on the World Monument Watch list of the 100 most endangered sites, and the main reason for that is because of all the traffic that is at Machu Picchu. You know, they just want to preserve the site, But
what's the situation with the debt?
Right. So because I'm not sure why Finland agreed to do it, but.
They transferred, just so you guys are listening, so they agreed to trade 25% of Peru's outstanding national debt, that's nearly $6 million US, by the way, in exchange for conservation programs.
Yeah, so...
What does that mean even? Like, why would you do that as a country? Just in terms of economic standings.
You know, honestly, I'm not really sure. It could be that maybe Finland has, they care...
About Peru and Machu Picchu,
natural beauty or the earth or nature or what have you.
That's pretty nuts.
And so they were like, you know what? If you do conservation efforts to maintain Machu Picchu, we will take away 25% of the debt that you owe us.
So what does that mean? Basically, they give you money?
No, they just basically wiped it clean.
They took it on, so Peru owned.
Peru owned Finland.
Oh, excuse me.
Yep.
Peru owned Finland money.
Yep, as part of their debt, and Finland was just like, you know what, if you make a lot of, put in a lot of policies to preserve Machu Picchu, we will forgive,
That sounds like a good friend. That sounds like a good friend. It's like, hey man.
And actually,
I know I borrowed you money, but
at one point Machu Picchu had been taken off of the endangered list because they did such a good job of conserving it. But it's actually back on now.
Why is that? Tourists,
it's getting more popular.
Yeah, I think we're always owning a Peru travel company. We're always curious as to like how this is going to impact us and impact David and the families that we work with, ourselves. I mean, this is our job, and a lot of people, there's like this conflicting, support the locals, Well, that's essentially what we're doing. The difference is that we're doing it in an organized way where our people are being paid well and adequately. We're helping with English speaking courses, like things like that, sort of just, and helping communities. But besides the point of us bragging, I think the thing that is difficult is knowing, what's going to happen in the next 20 years.
Right. So there's it is there is the trying to strike the balance of tourism in Machu Picchu is their job, it's their livelihood in Peru, and if you think about that, UNESCO,
it's got to take a big part. Excuse my interruption, but it's got to take a big part of their income.
Oh yeah, I mean if you're reducing the amount of people that can go to Machu Picchu, you're reducing the amount of people that are employed because there's less tourists to go there.
You're strangling Aguascalientes.
So UNESCO actually had wanted to reduce the amount of people entered per day to 900 people per day, and Peru was like, no way, this is a big source of income for people and the country, and so they kind of came to the compromise of the 2,500 people per day.
I wonder. I don't know much about it. We should look into something like that. Just to understand more of like why it's endangered. What can people do to help? Right. Because like there is this, I feel like anything historically, an example, right? We go hiking and pack it in, pack it out. Right. Leave no trace. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it pisses me off more than anything in the world when I was in like Havasupai Falls, when I see trash. Dude, clean your crap up. Like, stop. Yeah, it is what it is. It's a very, very sensitive topic, and it really becomes difficult when you're in a place like, I know that there's punk kids in Machu Picchu trying to break the stones or like do something, you know what I mean? Which we're going to get to one example actually right now that is very frustrating, and it just pisses me off to no end, if I'm going to be honest. But you want to pronounce that word right there? Because
I'm probably butchering it a little bit too, but the Intihuatana stone.
The Intihuatana, yeah, we're not saying it right at all. But that stone, which is basically, it's able to tell you, or excuse me, it was something used for the solstices. Summer, right? Summer solstice and winter. Mm-hmm. The sun is eventually over at one point throughout the year. I don't think we mentioned this. At one point throughout the year, the sun is directly over this stone and it casts no shadow, which is pretty crazy. And it's at a specific time of year every single year. Anyways, that stone was damaged permanently in 2001 after a Peruvian beer company sneaked equipment onto the site to shoot a TV ad. Like, how crappy is that? Can you imagine? The camera crane operator was sentenced to 6 years in jail. In my honest opinion, I feel like the entire beer company should have been in big trouble.
Yeah, I hear. I mean, if you think about it right there, I mean, that's totally a violation of the leave no trace motto that you try to follow when you go somewhere.
You damage something that was designed and made by someone
and can never be repaired.
Never again. And it can't be replaced in general. Like you that's freaky, dude. I would feel like a horrible human. Like, that would be gut wrenching for me. So it's bizarre that like they were that careless. Hiram Bingham's team excavated more than 40,000 artifacts during his exploration and stored them at Yale University. That's what kind of makes me laugh. It's because it's kind of crappy, but it's like, I mean, that back then, I guess, is kind of what happened. I don't know.
Yeah. So there's actually a big argument between since 1911 when he discovered it. Big argument between Peru and Yale, who actually owned the artifacts, and then finally in 2011 to mark the centennial of the discovery of Machu Picchu, Yale actually returned all the items to Peru.
Really? Mm-hmm. So they're no longer there.
So they're no longer in Yale. They're back with Peru.
This is brand new.
Yeah, 2011.
Okay, that's crazy. We might need to note that, actually. Then that's a really good fact. So there is a yearly marathon foot race along the Inca Trail to Machu Picchu. Yeah, heard about that.
It's every year there's a marathon, and you know, if you think about the elevation that you're at and going up and down, I mean,
I don't know. Can Americans do it?
You can do it. You can sign up to do it. I believe it's somewhere around $3,000 for the event.
I thought Chosky's did that though.
So they do
for free, because there's no way.
I'm not sure if the Choskys must get it for free, because the guy that's the record holder is a Chosky, and he did it he set the record in 1997. He did the Inca Trail Marathon in, I believe it was 3 hours and 27 minutes, which is blazing fast when you think about.
Could you have done it?
No way. There's no way. I mean,
at your peak performance, could you have done it?
No way. And I wouldn't even want to risk it, because think about where you almost fell over the ledge and died.
Hold on. So you were at your peak, right? In a little known story, I mean, at one point, Kev, you were training for the marathon for the Olympic trials.
Right. So I not for the trials, but I had ran a 2:48. 2 hours and 48 minutes.
And you don't think you'd have been able to do that?
Not on that, because you're at elevation. You're pretty high up. You're 8,000 feet.
This guy would have came here. He'd have kicked your ass.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. He would smoke me. I mean, so you're going over all that cobblestone.
Yeah.
You're going up and down elevation. I mean, the highest point you're going up to like 14,000 feet. So you're going to be winded because higher elevation. And then a fit person, they're probably going to do it in between 6 and 8 hours. And this guy 97, Chosky, did it in like 3 hours. 1997.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Bro had a heart attack. Thought you were saying he was 97. Nope. I'm like, what is going on?
Yep.
This sounds crazy.
3 hours and 27 minutes.
That is crazy. There is a hidden temple that can be explored for those hiking up Huayna Picchu. Do you know much about that? So
yeah, that's the Temple of the Moon, and a lot of people actually don't really go to discover it. They basically go up to Huayna Picchu and
take a photo.
Just kind of take a photo of Machu Picchu below, and kind of look around. But this, so the Temple of the Moon is it's kind of off trail, and there's various levels that you can go to, but it's just situated sitting in a cave. I mean, it's a cave, but it's a temple. It's pretty cool.
Cave.
Yeah.
We've never done Machu Picchu, and the reason for that is because every time we've gotten to damn Machu Picchu, we've been exhausted.
Yeah, just wrecked.
Like dead. Like, give me a minivan to take me up to Machu Picchu because I'm fried.
Yeah, maybe next time instead of doing 4-day hikes, we'll just take the train.
But I wanted to, or we can just maybe we can just convince David to just hang out with us in Aguascalientes for 3 days. I like that town. I really do like Aguascalientes. It's... first of all, I love sleeping there. Oh man, if you're a person who loves white noise, the hotel that we stay in, that river flowing, man, it is just amazing. Did you experience that?
I couldn't hear the river where I was at. No.
Man, where I was sleeping, dude, I could just snuggle up in them sheets out. It was amazing. So now we're on to our last fact. That's 50 of them.
It's 50. Wow.
Yeah, I don't even know how long this episode is. Hopefully it's not super long, but this one is really interesting. And I think at some point we should do a big research, maybe bring it back for the podcast to talk about this, because this is freaking nuts.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And maybe at some point, if it's possible, we can, maybe we need to find this person.
I mean, yeah, we have the name.
Yeah, maybe we could find her and contact her and get her on the show. That would be incredible. We've got some contacts, right? We went to the local Peruvian, Nashville Peruvian cultural event that happened here. If you guys know, we're based on Nashville. But this one is freaking so crazy, and I keep talking about it, but it is absolutely bonkers. So a local family claims that they currently continue to own Machu Picchu and that they may have proof. What the hell, Kevin? Break this down.
So this really blew my mind. So where we were talking about before, where Hiram really did not discover Machu Picchu.
Right.
So when the way Hiram discovered Machu Picchu really was a local Peruvian led him to
exactly.
Machu Picchu. So when they got up there was actually 3 different farmers that were living on Machu Picchu, farming the land. And one of the descendants of one of the guys that was living on Machu Picchu, farming the land, she has actually she has brought multiple lawsuits against the country of Peru, claiming over $100 million and trying to get future profits. And I mean, based on what I read, I mean, who knows if it's true, but based on what I read, she actually has the deed, and it does show that her grandfather bought the land in 1910, the year before Hiram discovered it.
Is this not blowing your minds right now? There's some human that probably owns Machu Picchu, and every time that she goes to court, I'm assuming they just throw it out.
I'm sure they do. I mean, if you think about how big Machu Picchu is, I mean, of course they're going to deny it.
How do you feel? Just moral compass. I'm just curious. How does that make you feel? What do you think is right in that situation?
Honestly, I have no idea. I mean, it's this massive world cultural site.
What do you think happened when Hiram Bingham showed up? Do you think he just kicked all the farmers off?
No,
that's the question.
I don't know.
What happened? I mean, why would they had the deed to this place? Why would somebody agree?
Yeah, I have no idea.
That's the other interesting thing. Yeah, that's the other interesting thing. It's kind of who would, I mean, I got a pretty cool house. You found a volcano underneath and you want to start doing tours and be like, yeah, start paying me some money, you know? You got I got a dinosaur underneath my basement, you know what I mean? We'll figure something out. That is weird. I don't understand how that plays out, but whatever. It's crazy. It's good stuff. 50 facts on Machu Picchu. Guys, we're going to plug a couple things real quick just to keep this short and sweet. We got a cool blog that we've been doing lately. We've got things on elevation. We've got things on best time to go to Machu Picchu, how to get your Machu Picchu tickets if you don't want to book through a company. We're kind of giving you the house, educating as best we can, because at the end of the day, we want you to go. If you don't book through us, hey, you don't book through us, but we're going to give you all the information available to have you make an educated guess, because at the end of the day, we really agree or believe that a more educated customer is a better customer anyway. So if you do all your research and you realize, hey, you know what, I want to go with these Kachi guys because they gave me everything and they're really good dudes, and they're helping locals out the best that we can. Definitely help us grow and help support us. Check out Peru Tips for Travelers on Facebook. It's a Facebook group. Again, like we said earlier, helping people get together and kind of ask questions. Maybe there's something that you have a question about that we aren't going to answer, like ayahuasca. I'm not going to answer that. No, not at all. Maybe there's a question that you have. Kevin's like, I hate you. There's a question about, the Nazca lines. We don't do tours there, but there is a community there that will probably help you answer those. And if we can't find the answer, we're always good about looking into it for you.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we just want you to enjoy Peru, and because it's an amazing place. It's worth seeing, and we just want you to enjoy it.
Absolutely. And if you have anything in particular that you want to just reach out to us, do a video call. We've got a lot of different times that we set up with people just to have a conversation. Set up an hour of our time after whatever it is that we're doing throughout the day, 3-4 p.m. Sit on a call with you, talk about Peru and kind of what ideas you've got laid out. And if you've traveled to Peru already, shoot us our photos. We love seeing the cool stuff that people put together. There's so many cool things that people see that we haven't seen, and we're always like, oh, we want to go check that out next time we go. But something side note, there's a guy who's been listening to our podcast who's booking his trip, and I was thinking about possibly getting him to talk about like questions that he has, just to get him on here, ask all his questions, and maybe they're not thinking about him, and then he comes back and gives us a status update.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
So like what was true, what was wrong, what's changed, what's not, because things change and we can't keep up. But hey, anyways, I'm rambling. Thank you guys so much for listening. Again, I'm David Kozlowski.
And I'm Kevin Groh.
That's right. And we hope to see you soon, or talk to you soon. Take care.